Hey there, I'm Rebecca with the Connext Exchange, and I am here to continue the conversation with Olga Fernandez, who is president of Sheep Don't Bark and founding member of Purpose Practiced. Olga recently joined us to lead a conversation called The Power of Perception: Control How Others See You. Thank you so much for joining me, Olga, for some additional conversation. The conversation the other week was pretty robust. You are in the business of considering brands, but not everyone personally considers how they show up and how they may linger with people, what others think of them. Was there anything specifically that stuck out to you about that conversation around the importance of personal brands or aha moments for people in the group?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on this interview, and thanks for inviting me to the Connext Exchange conversation, because I'm continually just in a state of awe at how wonderful the audience is. And the conversation was robust because everyone was really engaged. And I think that what struck a lot of people, again, just going by what the comments were, not only live, but also in the chat, was how certain people really took a double take at the whole experience factor. Traditionally, so many people, of course, now we've evolved in our understanding of brands, but a lot of people still actually think of brands being a little bit more static than they really are. Truly, they are experiences that companies or even people in our own private lives, even experiences that we create for other people. And so that was a really interesting comment that came up several times from a lot of the attendees in the conversation. And even afterwards, people contacted me and said, I really had no idea of the impact that I could make and the experience that I can generate for people, and in essence, help control how people perceive me that way. So that was very rich.
Yeah, and you started off the conversation with a few key questions about how do we want others to, what do we want others to believe about us?
Yeah,
Or even what would we not want them to believe?
totally.
And you called those, two of those, there were more, but kind of the cornerstones of making your brand. How did that come to you, and why are those questions so important?
They are important because I always tell my clients, brand yourself before someone else does, right? Because that sometimes it's good, but it isn't always. We really are the fire starters and the fire carriers for our own brands. And so in order to really establish the brand, whether it's a corporation or an individual, you really have to start with the very essence, the foundation, and the core purpose really of the brand. Brands are human. They're created by human beings. People buy based on emotion. I don't care if it's a business to business organization or a consumer product. People will buy on emotion. People buy from people. And so all of that gets into the mix. And so when we work with companies, we talk a lot about their essence, their core values, their beliefs, and what, again, they want people to know about them, truly believe about them, and how they want to be talked about when they're not around, right? Which is when and how they're recommended. All of those things factor into building a truly differentiated and active brand.
Yeah, and build your brand before someone else builds it for you. That's
Yeah.
so important. And starting with awareness of how you interact with people and that experience that you create. I think that was such a beautiful way to introduce. The other thing that you really brought alive in the conversation was that brands are evolving, at least the really good ones, right?
Definitely, they are. They're responsive. A brand is not a brand. A brand is a verb. That's what we say at Sheep Don't Bark, and that's one of the programs that we have, is to really understand that, every day, every moment, in every interaction, in every touch point, we're branding ourselves as people and as organizations. And we have to be responsive because it's all about being relevant. It's all about showing up where we need to show up in the way that we need to show up to support whoever is engaging with us. And so it's not, brands are not so much about us, right, as they are about the environment in which we participate every single day. And we are not about ourselves, we are for our customers and those that we serve. And it's that whole creating that type of an experience that it takes work, but it pays off big time, because that's how you can create longtime customers, lifelong fans. That's how brands can create cultures and change the world.
Yeah. And what I love about that evolution piece, that a brand is breathing and it's a verb, is there's permission to grow in there, that it's not static.
Right.
So as humans, as my, Rebecca with my personal brand, Olga with your personal brand, how does that evolution, the permission to grow, that permission to become, play into continuing to show up as someone who recognizes your brand?
That's an interesting question. Again, when we're actively branding and we're being in the verb state, and we're being responsive with other people, again, we talked about perception is reality, and a lot of the power of the brand, right, lives in the mind of the customer. Okay, we'll just call it the customer. And so it's creating the experience for them, but also with them, so that we're learning and they're participating in it. Ultimately, they make or break the brand. It's how we start it, and it's how we hold the space, right? It's like one of the things that we talked about in our Connext conversation was, you have, everything is based on relationship. Personal relationships are very similar to business relationships. And we all know the people that we have relationships with in life, that when we're with them, we just feel good. We feel good about ourselves. And we also know the relationships that we're in, that they don't make us feel good about ourselves. Good brands create that I feel good about myself kind of a feeling, whether, again, it's a business product or a consumer product. And so and that is developed because, again, you've invited the customer in to participate with you. And so again, because they're evolving and growing and the brand is evolving and growing, it's kind of like an organic happening that, of course, we have to be on top of it. We can't let it get on top of us, or we can't be behind it. We have to always be leading it, but in a very sharing, collaborative way. And the smart brands know that. And that's one of the things we really like to do to help our clients get more into that space, rather than, well, we are what we are and they should know about it. And no, it doesn't work that way. And there's so much more growth opportunity in the collaborative space and in the sharing and the evolving together with the customers, because that's when customers like bring you into their lives, bring you into their businesses, and take you with them as the trusted, obvious choice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so powerful. And you wrapped up the conversation by inviting people to ask themselves regularly, maybe weekly, what have I become this week? What am I becoming? And as someone interested in learning, that's such a beautiful question. I wonder, for you or your company, how does that play into your regular routine? Or is that a challenge to yourself still?
Yes and yes. It is a challenge, and it should be a challenge, right? We should never just rest on what we know, because everything that we do at Sheep Don't Bark, like I like to say that we provide data-driven marketing and branding strategies, obviously to help our customers grow. I mean, our thing is all about making a different sound, but also being the obvious choice in your market. And you can only do that when you know exactly what's happening in the market space. So, again, branding is active. It happens every day. It's a verb, and it's what we do is we base everything on data so that we know what's going out there. There's a lot of digital listening that we do on a daily basis, not only for ourselves, but for our clients. It's all about being relevant.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Olga, for joining me again. How can people get in touch with you if they have other questions or want to work with you?
They can easily find us at sheepdon'tbark.com, and we're there all the time. And if you want to reach me, it's Olga at sheepdon'tbark.com, and I'd be happy to have this conversation with anyone at any time.
Wonderful.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much,
much.
Rebecca.
Yeah, thank you for this extra time together. I greatly appreciate it. And
I appreciate the opportunity.
thank you all for watching. We hope to see you at a future Connext conversation every Thursday from 11:30 to 12:30 live on Zoom. In the meantime, have a great day.